Two kinds of trees in my yard.
Uh-huh.
One is live oak that puts out the
little leaves that come down.
Yeah. Little nuts.
Okay, acorns.
Acorns. And the squirrels love it.
Uh-huh.
And then I got one big pecan tree.
Okay.
But it seems that the leaves don't want to disintegrate.
Okay. Spray them down with a little bit of molasses, a little bit of Benedict Plus. They will disintegrate in a hurry.
Okay.
Yes.
This might be a dumb question, I'm not even sure. But what's the difference between, like, if I go to Gardenville and I get a compost to put on my yard, it's got some sand and dirt in it, and I bought other stuff, I don't know what's in there, versus fertilizer. Am I fertilizing when I put that compost in my yard?
Maybe a little bit. You know, do you get, how to put this? Would you get more nutrition out of eating 20 pounds of lettuce or out of eating 20 pounds of yogurt, whatever? You know, obviously there's not much nutrition in lettuce. It may serve other purposes, give you some roughage and some moisture. But nutrients, not much in lettuce.
So you need to do both.
So you need to do both, yes.
Something like that, but I would first fertilize and then compost it. I fertilize first.
Do it in either order.
Either order.
Everybody always says, I'm going to put down compost and fertilizer and green sand. What do I do first? I say, whatever you want to do first. It really doesn't make much difference.
So is the compost really more to kind of loosen the soil?
I'll tell you all about compost in a minute.
Okay, okay.
Other fertilizer questions before we move on.
Picking your leaves up off from your neighbors, naturally they're raking them up, so they're not really worried about organics. But we have some neighbors that come from Houston, and they like to spray their yard with everything that they get off the shelf.
Sure.
Should you be worried about putting those leaves in your yard?
If it's weed killers, I would be worried. If it's other stuff, I probably wouldn't be worried. Yes.
Getting back to mulching, mowing leaves and grasses, you read two different things. That if you mulch and then often enough, and if it's too thick, you're actually composting and
you're creating thatch, supposedly.
It compacts and it doesn't get air.
Don't worry about that. No.
So it doesn't matter if you say if your yard, if you miss a mowing or two and the grass gets too high and you mulch it instead of bagging it.
The reason that we used to think, and still do if you're on a chemical program, that leaving grass blades down created thatch, it's because those are the folks that have killed out all the microbial life that would be breaking the grass blades down. If you've got a good, healthy amount of bacteria and fungi in your soil, it's going to break those clippings down to where you're never ever going to have to worry about a thatch problem. Okay, one more and then I'll move on. Yes, sir.
Is there one type of organic fertilizer better for Augustine versus Bermuda?
No.
No. What about with an organic, like weed and feed?
God, you guys are good. No weed and feed. Terrible, terrible idea. I'll take up my Okay, what we call the organic weed feed is corn gluten meal, and I'll talk about that in just a second. Thanks, guys. Yes, ma'am.
And that is shredding your wonderful oak leaves. Are there domestic or residential shredders you can get, or just
your
nice
lawnmower is
guys?
all you need.
I don't have a lawn. So
okay. Sure. Again, if you really want to shred them up, and you don't have to shred them up,
I have tons. Oh, you don't have to shred them up?
No.
Just spray the molasses.
Just spray molasses on them, whatever. But yeah, you can get these little deals, you put them in, and they come out all chopped up or whatever else, or you can go out and rent them. That works. Okay, the other big problem that chemical fertilizers have created over the years, and the things that we are trying to improve in the case of our yards, is organic material in the soil does so many different things. Seminar down in the valley here about a month ago, they actually did a scientific study, and see, 50 years ago, 80 years ago, the Rio Grande Valley had about between 5 and 6% organic material in their soil. Today, after 50 years of chemical fertilizer, rather than 5 or 6%, is less than 1/2 of 1% organic material. And that's why the quality of the produce has gone down so much, why they're using so much more fertilizer, and why things just aren't as good as they once were. But they did a study, and on soil that had 1/2 of 1% organic material in there, when it rained an inch on it, probably less than 1/10 of an inch of water actually soaked into the ground. The rest all ran off. Erosion problems, lack of moisture, many, many things. We lost when we lost that 9/10 of an inch. They took a adjacent plot where they had, I think it was actually 4.5% organic material in the soil. A 2-inch rain not one drop ran off. It all soaked into the ground. So what makes the best soil? Soil with lots of organic material. Now, again, I don't like just telling you do this, do this, do this. I like to tell you why you do it. So I'm going to take a second and tell you about the organic material in the soil and about microbial life in the soil. Just for now, just take it as a fact that having beneficial bacteria, beneficial fungi, microarthropods, things like that in the soil is a good thing. But all living things have to eat, so to speak. And these bacteria and things that are in the soil, they have to have an energy source. And what is the energy source for 99% of all forms of life on Earth? It's sunlight. Sunlight hits green plants through the process of photosynthesis. Light energy is harvested and turned into chemical energy, and it's stored in plants in the form of what we call carbon bonds. When you have a carbon-to-carbon atom, it forms a high-energy bond. Just remember that. We don't have to remember the physics or anything of it. And when that bond is broken, a lot of energy is released. Sometimes it's released as heat, sometimes it's released in other forms. You do this every day. You guys, I didn't see anybody on a bicycle today. When you came over here, you broke a lot of carbon bonds and you used up a lot of energy. Over a few million years, heat pressure, things like that, these carbon bonds, this organic material that grew on Earth a few million years back, has been compressed to form things that we use like oil and natural gas and coal and things like that. That's your energy source. And when you start that car, you're breaking carbon bonds and you're releasing energy. When you throw that log in the fireplace and set it on fire and all that wonderful heat comes back at you, you're breaking carbon bonds. That's energy, and that's all energy that originally came from the sun. The organic material that is in the soil, your soil microbes, that is their energy source. They are breaking carbon bonds at the same time they're building up other things, and they have to have that energy source in order to live and do the things that they do in the soil. So when you dump on chemical fertilizer, you've got no carbon in there. You've got just, straight nitrates, phosphates, and toxic fillers for the most part, but you've got no carbon, you've got no energy in there. So the microbes in the soil that are processing that fertilizer, where are they going to get their energy? They're going to break the carbon bonds from the organic material in the soil. And over several years, the organic content of the soil goes down, 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 because what we've done is dumped all this chemical fertilizer on there. These poor microbes said, I can't get any energy out of the fertilizer, so I'm going to have to break the, the organic material that's there. That's why our soils have gotten so much more compacted. That's why we have so much more problem with runoff. That's, again, myriad of problems happen when you lose your organic material out of the soil, and that's the other thing that chemical fertilizers do. Organic fertilizers come with their own built-in energy. You're actually putting organic material into the soil. You're putting energy into the soil with organic fertilizers. Not necessarily from the fertilizer components, but from the carbon products that are in there that already have that stored energy. Does that make sense? Okay, it's really, really important. In building up our soils, the thing that adds organic material back to the soil, I started out thinking, oh gosh, that must be tree roots and plant roots and all the leaves and things we're tilling in. No, the things that build more organic material in the soil than anything else are things we can't see. Bacteria build more organic material in the soils than anything else that we put in there. So keeping this life alive in the soils is really critically important. Now, we may come back to that later, but I've spent enough time on that.
Is there a testing? How can we test our soil?
If you really want, there are two ways that you can get a soil test. I can pretend I see it, and I can say your soil is low in nitrogen, it's low in iron, it's low in organic material, it's high in phosphates, and it's super high in potassium.